Is the sound working? It stops moving, so I presume. No. Well, thank you for coming. I think the weather's made a bit of a washout, and I don't know if there's many people arguing about the referendum today as well, so I think it's a bit of an interesting day, all told. But thank you for coming again, and thanks to Jonas for hosting us in this lovely room. Fortunately for you seeing the stream, we struggled with the camera. We could have showed you a bit more, but here's a lovely space we've got here. And that's it, really. I'm just going to pass you over to Jonas and let him do so. Thank you.
Welcome to the LSE. I'm going to, especially for people in the conference chairs, try not to put you to sleep for the next 15-20 minutes. I've prepared a quick talk on mobility in higher education IT. I'm aware not everyone is from higher education IT, so the title is a bit misleading. In fact, what it should be called is making the most of a situation where you don't really have any choices in terms of mobility. But I think it will make sense as we go along. Like I said, welcome to the LSE. We're in the founders room or the show library. And this is one of the oldest rooms in, this is the old building, so this is the first LSE building, and this is one of the oldest rooms in the old building. I was between doing a technical talk or I was tempted by the fact that we're hosting today and try and do a talk that is more about, well, closer to the LSE motto, which is to know the causes of things. Around the area of mobility, and in particular, trying to tell a story, as we're supposed to do what we present. And this is our story setting up a service here in the last few years. Now, in proper academic terminology, is mobility a thing in higher education? Traditionally, anyone from higher education? Us three will talk. So basically, higher education is seen as this static IT environment where students come in and they sit down and they study. And there's a reason for this. This is the proper LSE library. This is the show library. That's where the study, most of the study goes on. And this is a picture from 2001, so that's 15 years ago, when it was revamped, I believe, and we had brand new Windows computers, and everyone was very excited. And then this is a few years later, and you notice a pattern, right? And this is now. And the common thing here is everybody's sitting down, everybody's using the computer, everybody's studying. And my point here is that mobility in higher education and generally in computing is a fairly recent concept, not only because of the lack of, say, good portable devices that have come about in the last 6-7 years, but also simply because this is how things work, and things tend to stay the same. So that was a challenge 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, when I joined the LSE, which was a Windows-only organization, and we knew there were Macs around and so on, but officially there was no other service. So again, my goal in this quick talk is to basically just understand, as I said, the causes of this. Is mobility actually an important thing when you set up service? Not necessarily in higher education, but generally. So, like I said, staff until late 2013 would not really get proper Apple support. They would be supported as a response. And it was a similar situation for students, in fact, until 2015, until last year, where we didn't have any officially any student-facing services. And when I joined, we had 80 devices. We are now at 1,200. It's not a massive number, especially compared to other places, but it's a big increase that has a rather important kind of cultural underpinning them. And yeah, that's where we are now. So we have 700 OS 10 and 500 iOS devices. So I look at Apple as a platform as a whole, not necessarily distinguishing so much between Mac and iOS in the way that everything runs. This is a brief timeline. Again, it kind of shows, and I've tried to be as accurate as I can, but it kind of shows that it's been growing evenly. So from the minute we announced we have a service, people started buying Macs. It's not that we pushed or we did anything in particular or special to increase that service. A few more numbers, just drilling down and trying to understand what is going on here. So I'm not going to stay here too long, but you can see we've got more laptops than desktops. This is on the OS 10 side of things. Obviously, iOS is inherently mobile. But again, you can sort of see, this is interesting, at least I found this interesting, when you take a step back and look at what it is that you have to manage. But this is the more interesting thing. So when you divide by form factor, you have static facilities versus mobile facilities, this is 80-20, effectively. And that inevitably will affect the way that you design the service and the way you deliver the service. This is where we are. It takes a few seconds to load. So this is where we are. And as of a couple of days ago, I ran a report based on IP. We have almost 400 internal staff clients. We have more than that external. So again, beginning to think about, is mobility actually a thing here? Should the service be focused towards people who don't necessarily live here in terms of computing time? And when you take another step back, don't think of university as a global sort of IT infrastructure, but actually, this is as of last week, 50% of staff machines, this not staff as in people, 50% of staff clients were spread over 19 countries and 6 continents. So again, thinking about your infrastructure, this is something that will influence the decisions you take. Or at least it does for me, when I know that I have to deliver packages anywhere, suddenly the cloud things begin to look interesting. On the student side of things, we've done a similar exercise, and some of you may have seen this already. This is only one slide. This is on our iRoad service, which we presented in January last year. So very quickly, what we do is we have, instead of buying a whole lot of desktop machines, we prefer to buy MacBooks. They're set up in a 24/7 self-service way. Students will go in, scan their card, pick up the laptop, log in over Wi-Fi with their credentials in the managed environment, return it whenever they want. And this is working out very well. And again, looking back and understanding what is going on and where, based on that, where we're going, this, you can't see the numbers obviously, but this is 2014 when we started piloting, late 2014 when we started piloting this. We started with 36 MacBooks. We have about 138 really, in a number of different facilities, but they all run in the same way. And you can see how it's been increasing. This is when we added more machines to the service, and usage or demand has remained the same, and it's been increasing in the same way. So just as a snapshot, when it's busy, so this is week commencing 30th of May, which was one of our busy periods just before the exams, just after everyone started with essays or during the submission terms. We were seeing an average daily load of 680 devices, but this is based on 78 iRoads, one count. So roughly 1:9 ratio. That weekend, the loans stayed at 600 per day. So this is a 24/7 service. You saw the library, students practically live in that place when we have exams or when they have to submit something. So this is a service. Obviously, they could just walk out to a desktop and start using it. Right? But the difference in what we're seeing is they prefer this because it allows them to grab a laptop, go and find a nice corner with comfy chairs or whatever, in their own group, study group, or whatever it is, and do what is called as social learning. The highest ever daily load was 1,017, again for the same unit, so the 78 machines. So they are being used as much as possible. And everything's great, right? So we have 65% of our Mac users are mobile. We have, when you split by form factor, we have 80-20. We don't care where people are anymore. Again, this is if you take mobility into account as a core characteristic of your service. The culture of social learning, we're seeing it in particular with iPhone, and we're beginning to expand this with iOS devices as well, especially with the recent announcements that have been thrown in. And this is working very well. We're just at the beginning of that, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to pan out, but iPads seem to be the perfect tools for this sort of thing. And users develop a sense of ownership. I mean, we've always had this on the other side of things, but in particular with more staff in particular having laptops, it's my Mac. It's not the work computer, it's my Mac. And what does that mean though in reality on the other side? Again, understanding the causes of things and why things happen and what the effect is. These are quotes from emails I've received, right? What you call security risk is what we call research work. This is for someone who asked to have admin rights by default, and all of his areas, this is the head of the department, all of his users, all of his staff having admin rights by default. And of course, he was having a conversation with our security manager about the nature of basically everyone being that. But this is, again, this is a side effect. The higher the level of ownership, the more they expect to use computers in the way they do at home, this sort of thing is going to come up. And I would like to get my beautiful Macintosh without having it defaced by the asset tags. The asset tags is this sticker at the bottom underneath the laptop. Ruined, defaced. Again, okay, we all, look, Apple equipment is aesthetically pleasing as it is useful, but this is something that you have to respond to, or that I have to respond to a number of times. And this one, which is great, good job guys. Don't want any of this JSS malware stuff you guys installed on my Mac. This is somebody calling our service desk saying, I've got this problem. Our help desk person, without really thinking about it, said, oh, let me see, I think it's because you can see this in the JSS. And guys, it's JSS. It's a virus. So, again, higher sense of ownership. This is what is called the mobility paradox, which follows up the paradox. The more mobile someone is, the more they create a relationship with the service and the device. If you want them to use it as much, the less management you have to make, and you find it works that way. But this is the side effect. So it's not all easy. We saw in Minneapolis, we saw IBM saying, "Oh, we're going a bazillion devices every week, and all we do is we just put some service on it. It's fine." So following on from that, that's fine. It's easy, but it also is difficult at the same time. So after all these emails, and what the point isn't that you make someone a local app and you give them a Mac, you install some service and they go away. Obviously, we use custom suite, which is sort of like a famous subservice. It could be monthly or whatever comes next. The point is that what I wanted, what we wanted, is to have this free environment, free as in you're not tied in, you're not often managed, but you have access to the same services. And it's something we discussed a few months back in the meetup about AD and whether you buy them and so on. So, just a very quick overview of what that means for us is we want people, for example, to be able to access file shares. So we use a product that allows us to reshare our DFS, and we can make that available if someone wants it. This is the stuff that we talked about at Market a few months back. We make virtual Windows applications available or access to virtual Windows environments if somebody wants it. Same thing for printing, same thing for system upgrades, software delivery. These are the core components of the service. Data security and antivirus, in addition to antivirus, we also secure the clients. And we also look at the device security, not just the data security and information security. And finally, things like 5 volt, again, we provide all these things through subservice. This is us rebranding the Jump subservice, using LSE subservice to make it a bit more digestible for users. But again, this is the aim. So we've been trying, especially with all those difficult users, we're now in a transitional period where we have this new advanced configuration until everyone's moved over to the default configuration. Yeah? Where what we do is we use BP as much as possible. We install subservice. We configure very light configuration that is focused on security and integration of the device onto our networks and systems. And we leave it up to the user to choose what they install, but from everything, from Office to the printers to everything. And ironically, again, this is the good part of the paradox. Ironically, this is being preferred. Although they have to do more work, because they can just take it and replicate what it is that Apple are doing, basically, with them. They take the laptop home. Again, we have most of the laptops. Desktops are easy because they're accessible. Even out of hours, someone can get the key to someone's office going and support it. But for laptops, people prefer that. We use file distribution, package distribution is done with Rackspace, so we're very happy with the performance in that respect, no matter where people are in the world. And again, in scientific terms, mobility is a thing, at least for us. And we are fairly unique in that we have a new service. It's 3 years old. We haven't even started replacing machines for the most part. It would be interesting to see what happens then. But, and there's a lot of progress as well. Anyway, it's very clear where the focus, at least for me as a systems admin, should be, and maybe future investment or training and so on and so forth. Try to be quick. Thank you very much.
Any questions? I've been asked to fiddle with the streaming stuff, so if you want to.
You said it would be interesting to see how things change when you start to replace machines. What do you think would be different to replace a machine compared to just getting a new machine?
Well, it would be different. For example, 3 years ago when we started this, and presumably say somebody replaces their laptop now, we didn't have the device development program or B2B or device assignment for apps and so on. Whereas now we're beginning to use these as much as we can. Especially on iOS, we've gone that way. On OS 10, we're maybe about 60% there. The experience for somebody who 3 years ago was just given a Mac that was half installed, or somebody sat down with them to, here's a box, switch it on and just follow the instructions, and here's maybe a piece of paper that makes it a bit easier, a website that to go to. That I don't know whether it's going to be received in the same way, or maybe we'll have to adjust our processes slightly or our support slightly and so on. The other thing is, again, this is just me going into semi-academic mode here. Mobility is one thing, and I've been talking about device mobility, but there's also mobility of people, mobility of users, and we're seeing how that changes, how the digital sociality is actually through Apple are taking this very seriously. Apple IDs have been in place for some time if you want to deploy software. The OS itself is designed in a way that it almost invites you to configure your own personal accounts, regardless if it's work or not, which has forced us to adopt this code model that 7 or 8 years ago nobody cared. This is a work laptop. We bind it to AD, and this is how you use it. And you can't do that anymore. At least in some environments, maybe you can. So these things I can see changing. I'm not expecting dramatic changes, but I'm just saying, let's see, when we go through circle, let's see what happens. Okay.
You don't announce machines. As in not a white person, so just doing traditional stuff like that.
Again, this is where we are lucky and unlucky in certain areas. This is one of those where we are actually really lucky because the iron thing took off very well. The need for static labs hasn't been great. So we have fixed machines. We have I think maybe about 60 odd iMacs in various places. We have 20 in the library, the big space that we saw now, and a couple of other specialist labs that we have. But there are two things. First of all, the iron has been so successful that this is the first option that we're looking at now. And then the other thing that's affected us is this great big hole outside where we've knocked down about maybe 25, maybe 30% of our campus to build this big building. Those buildings were full of classrooms and spaces and so on. So this amplifies the requests we get for iron. So static labs are not something that trouble us at the minute. But I can see how, and again from experience from other universities, if you start with 400 iMacs or whatever it was, G5s in labs, again that forces you to take decisions that may not be as easy to take in this sort of
Even with the staff accounts at the end.
what support staff?
No.
Users. Asking to configure the machine.
It's a mixture of support we provide. We have a fairly large IT support team.
No, I'm talking about the users.
Yes.
People who are borrowing the
Yeah.
computer. Say to them, figure it yourself.
That's what I'm saying. Not everyone has to do that.
You seem to be saying that's what we're moving towards.
That's what we're moving towards.
Always going to be the option of not.
Well, people have the option. If you are a confident Mac user and you're happy to switch it on and follow the instructions and you understand what device controller program does and so on, we're happy for people to go off and use it. But that doesn't mean that this is the only thing we do. We're not ignoring it. So that's what I'm saying. We have a very large support. Well, we have 4 separate support teams and they look after separate areas. And they work with me or I work with them in having a tiered support structure. So from the completely you're on your own thing, do whatever you like, if someone wants that, all the way to, we'll set it up for you. Again, using the and so on, just to make our IT support guys' time more well spent. But they can configure machines for users if they need to be mounted, they need, or if they don't want to be mounted, they need. We have one with processes. Again, depending on what the user chooses. If I'm answering your question, we do everything.
Have you seen the proportion of the type of user change over time as people become more familiar with technology and are happier to be self-sufficient? Have you seen a trend towards more people adopting a kind of self-service model?
Yeah, definitely. This is, look, self-service became popular on the back of the App Store. As people are more familiar with using the App Store and say their new iPhone or Android, whatever, the principle is the same. They are more confident in doing the same thing at work. Now, there are 2 issues there, though. One is what in information systems research is called mass amateurization. Everyone thinks they're amazing, but what they are is they are a slightly better user, a slightly better novice. But that's enough. And this is how I design the operating system of the App Store. And the other problem is that this increasing confidence leads to demands from users to IT, and I'm sure this is what everyone is seeing, to configure things in a particular way that users are more familiar with. So it's like a two-way pressure, if you like. This is what I'm seeing here. Again, the LSE as an environment isn't representative of all universities or all IT environments. We are quite focused on meeting the demands of academics. Our role is also to try and keep some balance. I'm sure, and I've seen other environments where this is how it's done because this is how it's done, but you don't really have that much choice, and there may be a couple of VIPs that can get around that. Again, I'm not, this isn't what I'm showing isn't the future by any means. This is just me taking a step back and seeing what happens here.
So, do the people have admin rights now or not?
Yes. So this was a decision we had to take, and I'm more than happy for people to have admin rights. As far as I'm concerned, this is just me. The whole admin rights thing, obviously, it's a security risk anyway you look at it. You have to make sure that you put the necessary processes and stops and education and relationship in place to have a nice working environment where nothing bad happens. But this is the key. This is what I'm seeing being the key here. If things are communicated properly, and obviously, if the user has the technical ability and the understanding of what it is that they're doing, again, this is what they see at home. They buy a new Mac, they switch it on, it says create your account, auto-admin by default. Why can't I have this at work? I haven't done anything stupid at home. And that's when you try to find other ways of securing institutional data, for example, if it's important, or meeting contract requirements if you work in an environment that is bound by them. So for us, so all of our laptop users they have auto-admin rights. We had until very recently for our desktop users a package in some sense that give you admin rights for 30 minutes, or they moved it to 5 minutes, and so on. Now by default, all of our users get auto-admin rights. All of our staff, students.
I think it's a good, or it gives another possibility as well what the actual system needs to do. Because if you say, okay, I'm in charge as a system admin for certain applications or things, that's the.
And it goes back to, inevitably, this discussion about admin rights eventually, sooner or later, always goes back to the, are you trying to solve HR problems with technology? If you are required to have an IT environment, a system that is locked down as much as possible, then you're not even going to have this discussion. But where you can have the freedom, and universities are as far as I've seen, more loose with in that respect, and you can work towards achieving.
You really have controls that can feel like things that can solve problems. That's one of the biggest. Because you don't get all day issues. Someone I used to tell you, if you look at some films, it's good software, and you can take some films and do it, box or painting, then you look into the network, and you know what happens.
Yeah. Well, again, we monitor as much as possible. We are trying to move that function, if you like, on a network level, again, as much as possible. But also at the same time, it's very clear. We make it very clear to users that accountability and trust goes both ways. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they did something knowingly or not. If you've broken the terms and conditions of acceptable use policy or conditions of use, or whatever the policy will be called, it will be down to responsibility, ultimate accountability and responsibility will be with them if they decide to install BitTorrent or something like that and just start running those things. But again, this is a struggle that I think you're going to have regardless. Okay, not giving out admin rights might allow you a sense of security in that respect, but nobody guarantees that you're not going to have these problems in the first place. And also, you then have to manage other types of problems, political problems. Not that what I'm trying to do is avoid that, but I would rather spend my time creating a relationship with people where we both understand what is happening and try and educate them as much as possible.
Are your users responsible for their own data as far as backups go? Things like that?
Yes, they are.
Do you provide any service if they want to back up their laptop and serve that as a resource?
Not much outside of your usual Windows 8 space home drive facility. This is something we've looked at in the past couple of times, and I'm particularly keen to offer a backup service, again, as an on-demand service with some personal or something equivalent. It's been in the plans to do it for some time. You are looking at the Mac team at LSE. It's been a busy couple of years.
Do the Windows machines have anything similar offered for those the Google Technology machine? And if not, as in, are they open as the Macs? And if not, is what you're doing influencing the Windows team at all? Are things moving in a different way on that platform because of what people are doing with Macs?
The person you hear walking towards me is my boss, who's the Windows Systems Manager at LSE. So my answer would be diplomatic. No, actually no. I think it is. I think it is affecting or influencing in a positive way what is happening in Windows, or in the Windows environment at LSE. But also I think okay, Microsoft are much slower than Apple in implementing these things, but I think Microsoft are also looking that way with Windows 10. You know, there are equivalents to the DB type services. Whether they will ever work, that's another discussion. But I think, regardless of what happens on the Apple side of things, the Windows guys would have to look at that as a future service. What we are doing with the Apple devices, yes, it is accelerating these processes. I think it's fair to say on the Windows side of things. There isn't the equivalent of self-service or even the kind of openness that we have. But then again, there isn't the same demand. And again, it maybe goes back to culture and the difference between Apple users and non-Apple users, or Windows in this particular case, with the laptops and the desktops. But I can definitely see them having to, at some point, address this, not just on an LSE level, but generally.
Just going back to what you were saying about there not being the same sort of demand on the Windows side, do you think that's possibly because the availability of those services on the Apple side of things is driving the demand for the Apple products and actually moving people away from Windows? I think people feel that, it's okay, actually this feels more open to people online, so actually it's working people out, and that maybe is why we've seen that variety more.
I think there is definitely an element to that. I mean, look, I'm sure we've all seen, as those of us who do Mac support here, we've all seen in the last maybe 3-4 years, new Mac users that at work that only bought a Mac because either the brother, mother, children, whatever, bought a Mac at home. So that inevitably creates or migrates users from one platform to the other. Apple are playing the publicity game very well. No one can deny that, and they've always done this thing where they will tease you with an iPhone or an iPod, and then eventually, without knowing you bought a MacBook or an iMac. Yeah. So there's definitely an element in that. I don't think if we were setting up this service in say 2007, that within 3 years we would have the increase from 80 to 1,200 Apple devices, even if iOS existed the same scope as it exists now. It definitely plays a role. I just see it as my role to try and navigate that as much as I can. I'm not recruiting, actively recruiting. Okay, thank you very much. Disconnect.
So Crystal's going to set up in a moment, so if you just want to stretch your legs, grab a bit of food just for a second, and we'll shout afterwards. Also, if anyone's got a charger, because that'd be great.
For one?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. Just doing the stream.
capabilities here, but we've got this thing, you want to use it?
Yeah, those.
Yeah, and there's adapters for everything. And clickers.
It's a new.
Yeah, thank you. Huh?
Es geht so ins Cloud. Ja, was muss ich das nicht stellen?
Schreibt man das auch noch schnell was? Ich glaube, ich mache noch was.
It was about 6 one and is it your mic and it's on mute, so unmute it that way. I don't know if you want to turn it off. Would you? I know it's on.
Hello? Hello? Sorry. Do you want to come back? Finished. Grab some food.
The big camera didn't work, but that seems to work.
Hi guys, I want to introduce myself. I'm Christopher Fellner. I've worked as an account manager or former system engineer for Farway in Europe, Switzerland. And I'm going to have a short talk, a technical talk about file level deployment. Probably that might be some interest starts and bring your own device. A bit of the mobility stuff we heard before as well. How can I deal with having someone admin rights, but have to ensure being in charge of certain applications as well? It'll be interesting. Not gonna. So before I start, two people here I've seen in the East Mid-Admins meeting. There's another one in November, and they're looking for speakers. General Mark and Judith said, yeah, I can say something here. It was really nice. I think you guys are doing a good job. The first one was based in Leicester, the University of Leicester. I think the next one is in Nottingham, Chickasaw, as far as I know. Yeah, please join the Slack group there and just keep it with I think they appreciate it. So from my side, what we're doing, what's about is it all about? So it's about achieving a desired state. So basically you have you have something in mind you actually want to have on the client, all those clients. And what does it need? Most of the time you set it up, or at least that's how I know it. You have a manifest, a catalog, a container, a work list, and a client will be fine. So the user manifest contains a description or a declaration of the managed or desired state of the client. So that's how it should be. So you set that up, and then it gets downloaded. For us, what we do is we have a counter on the server side, which goes up every time you set something up, and then set it live. You press mob update, and the client ticks on. So you have a tickle interval, the client connects to the server, and by default, it's 2 minutes. It says, hey, what's your number? My number is 5. Oh, I have 5, I have nothing to do. If the server is on model number 6, it downloads the manifest and compares it to its catalog file. They're very small, they have to be downloaded from the server itself. So also if you have, on the picture we saw, the guy from Sydney, that file will still be downloaded from the UK, from your server, or wherever it is in the cloud. What does the manifest contain? It is the ID of the client, the number of file sets. File set is basically our packages. It contains either the settings or an application or a profile. It's basically the way we package software or stuff and deliver it afterwards to the client. And some additional information, as well as a list with the version of the file set, because you can modify the file set, press on update, and then it's the second version because it contains different things as before, but it still has the same name. And you can set time attributes. So basically, you can say, okay, start downloading it now or tomorrow and make it active on Monday, or make it deactive and delete it to a later time. So you can set it passive, which is quite interesting as well. And as well, if you have a self-servicing kiosk, it's the portal where a person can, without that, install it or uninstall it themselves. So the user manifest is stored in the client data file folder, as well as most of the other stuff as well. I can do that later on. I have a short, I'm not sure if you can read that here. Still pointing as well. So you have the dates, when it's the download time, the activation date, the deactivation date, the deleting. You have the name of the file set, the model number. So there's a lot of in there already. And then you have the file set container. So basically the manifest has the file set name in there. So that's basically the software, what you want to do. And then you have a file set and a file set container. The file set container contains the information exactly how it should look like on the system, on your hard drive, on the client hard drive. You have a version of the client container, and that can be downloaded from any distribution. But it's not actually data, it's really small as well. So it's the biggest I've seen was Logic with all the updates and all the things, and that was smaller than 5 MB. So it's not something that goes, so it's not really big data that's going back and forth all the time. You have in here, you have the header information in there. That's the number of files and folders in that file set. And I'm talking, that's a big difference probably to other systems that you really have a number of files and folders, the version of the file set, the checksum of every file in there. So if you just modify it, if you touch it, the checksum gets different, and you will, the catalog will basically, yeah, it's for the system, it's a different file there. You can say it's, if it's a kiosk, then for the kiosk you have certain information. Everybody knows that, and those self-servicing portals can have the icon of the application, different categories. If it's an application, if it's a profile, if it's a printer, so you have subfolders in there, and all that information is in the file set container. You have a list in there, which is comparable afterwards. So that's the file and folder name, the folder and folder location, the metadata, the access rights, ACL, sibling, and something that's very important, what I said before, is the verification setting. So you can say if it's self-healing, if it's download or missing, or if it's ignore and verify. Ignore and verify is used for scripts, or if you don't care. So basically you send that once. If the user deletes it, will not be touched. Download if missing can be interesting if you have deployed Word, or you want to set up that the user can do some templates or stuff like that. But if he deletes the template file set, you want it to be replaced with the default. There's a short example, I just go over that because probably a lack of time. Then we have the catalog file. The catalog file is basically a bit like the manifest, but the manifest is downloaded from the server. The catalog file is created by the client itself. So it checks the manifest and it creates a catalog file. It goes through all the files on his computer if you have it or not, and creates a catalog file out of it. That's relatively small as well. And that's done with every verification. Verification can be triggered either every 24 hours by default or manually in the self-service use portal. So basically, if somebody calls up and says, hey, I have a problem with my application, blah, 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 help us to say, okay, press that button. It should from the start, it should start regenerating the catalog, comparing that to the manifest. If there's something wrong with it, it automatically downloads it and does it by itself. So there's actually no work from the server side for that. What's the content of it? Obviously, I'm betting the same facts, not just particularly in there. It's not only sort of planned. It's the idea, the model number of the client, the number of file sets. It's pretty similar actually to what's in the manifest. But the manifest comes from the server that's generated by the client itself. So you have the status and the time attributes for the file sets in there, and a work list. So if the manifest and the client catalog file differentiate, then it starts with the work list. Then the client by itself says, oh, okay, the manifest is a new file set in here. So you got a work list, download the file set and activate it. You can see that here. Okay, I hope you can see that here better. So what does the client? The client checks the server, asks for the model number. The model number is newer, so that's 5, and the client has 4, we'll download the new manifest and compare it to the catalog. If there is something different, might as well read that. In the new manifest there's a fast and less, because you said, no, I don't want to have that version installed on the work, and then we'll automatically create a work list where it says delete that. So first deactivate it, and then delete it. So that's the figure here. Yeah, I'm short. I think that's the only actual GUI from Firewave I put in there, because I said I don't know Firewave times. But here you can time that. You can say, okay, I downloaded it now, activate it, make it inactive, or delete it. The good thing there is if I make that, I can make an instant rollback as well. Because if I set something inactive, it's just basically moved into the client's hidden folder on the client itself. So basically, by the time you set it active again, it's just moved back out. So that's going instantly. If you have an old version, let's say, okay, your boss is saying, I deploy the newest version, and a month later, it's 2 weeks later, everybody is saying, we can't work with that, we want to go over that. And then basically for you, it's just too pressable. The catalog comparison here. If it's in the catalog, but it's not in the user manifest, that's what I said before, you just deactivate it, and then it's get deleted. If you update something, that can happen as well. If you have a fuzzer and you do an update of the fuzzer, then with the checksum, it automatically realizes the files it doesn't have on there, and only downloads the differential. So it's, in the end, you have way less broad bandwidth consumption than if you would do it with a package or something like that. But it's not like that, I'm saying. It's just a different approach. Basically, we have an approach for a long time, so we stick with it. We just added PKG as well. So the client downloads the newest faucet container from the bootstrap server. The client compares it. I don't want to go there too much in detail, because talk a bit more about the client verify, because otherwise it takes too long. The client verify is what I said before, that's happening automatically every 24 hours. So I think that's from the file. That's very important for the whole system, that the client itself generates that catalog. And if it sees that the user changed something in there, so let's say I'm bringing your own device model where the user is an administrator, and he installs BitTorrent. And BitTorrent does something to one of those applications, the system administrator is in charge. I don't know why, but he probably downloaded a newer version of it. And that's not compatible, but it destroyed what you installed. So once the client is restarted, we go to the catalog and say, hey, are those files actually those files I want should have at that place there? Do they have the right checksum? If not, it's going to download it from the server by itself. So basically, in the end, you will have a working version for those file sets, for those applications you have in place by itself. So it's no call to the system. You see here, I pointed out what's actually happening here. So basically, if something is missing, in that case, Firefox was missing, what it does, it recreates all the folders first, then it checks again. It checks again if the files are in there. It changes all the access rights and everything, and starts downloading the files afterwards. So comparing the catalog files and checks the list of files it contains. Open the faucet container because that's in there. You have all the files with the checksum. Compares the faucet container on the file system with the checksum, and if there's a mismatch, it generates it and decides state by itself by either downloading, deleting, activating, or deactivating any of those files. The advantages: the client knows which files are needed and where to get them. The client does all the work. So basically, you set it up once, and afterwards, the client is doing it by itself without really having to interfere with the server, which makes the interaction with the data that's actually transferred much less than before. After an interruption, so basically, you have that all the time. You're running to the bus. So basically, you press self-servicing keys, you install an application, and your train is leaving, so you just close the latch and went home. Basically, stop there. You don't have it's not a shit. It's not a cloud-hosted version of the whole thing. So basically, in the train, you open up the machine. You can't do anything. It will as soon as you go back start at that point and not re-download the whole thing because it knows exactly where the files stopped. So the server load is reduced dramatically. If you deploy an update, so if you deploy an update and deploy the newer version, pass it first, all the files which are common will be locked, so they're hard linked afterwards. If you uninstall the old version, then it will only deliver the differential integral. So it's still for Office. Probably the packages are 3 gigs, but the only really new stuff in there is probably a gigabyte. So you save a lot on server on bandwidth as well. Might not be interesting, but if you have 1,000 machines, it is actually quite good. All right, so Q&A. Yeah, it's my birthday. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, please hit me. I think that's probably the most more interesting part. Yes, you.
What sort of conflict gets all with some things that we're going to say those Office package, on their own.
Well, the thing is, yeah, I think I was in Slack and I got confronted with Adobe, and it's true, you know, you say it's the vendor advice is not to do it that way. But the Creative Cloud, I have a package, which is when the person who goes home is, yeah, it feels a bit like, man, I don't do that. So I'm sure it's still working. And I mean, it took me probably like 3 hours to actually do the whole thing, to package it. So it is still working. I don't know, I can't promise you how long it will be, but at the end of the day, why shouldn't it be working? The only thing that's hard, or where I say go for the PKG approach, is if it should be very fast, or if you don't, I couldn't be bothered because it's definitely has to work. But that's the one time you truly need it. If you have to generate your own PKGs because you aren't trusting the recipe files, then you end up having spent exactly the same amount of time than you would do with fast package. So that's, and by the time you uninstall it, it's with mine, I know every single file I put on my computer, so if I download it, uninstall it, they're gone. So it's not like I send a flash package which uninstalls everything that shows up in the code. So, yeah. And it's a different approach. For Office, there is something which Office 365, the latest one I have to try, but the other ones beforehand, which you could still download the packages and install those with Office 365. For CC, I was even able to make like a master package which contained all the common files and Acrobat Pro, because that was at that moment the one everybody needed Acrobat Pro, so we put that on there, and the rest we could install package-wise on it. So there's it is work. It's not. I'm not saying it's not by itself. It's the Office is not complex thing altogether. Yeah, I think the passive deployment, that's pretty good. Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you come across issues or get much feedback in cases where you have gone back to the learning version, where you just gave the example about like bosses or that one? Do you have come across any issues where you rolled back something using like passive? That's caused
Well, the thing is, if you do a rollback on a file-based deployment, you really uninstall every single file, basically, which is not common use. So the computer doesn't know it has the latest version. Probably with a different application, I mean, if the newer version did something outside of your file set, well, that's still going to be a problem, then, absolutely. But that's something you have to test. I mean, I would do the rollback anyway before I have tested it on one machine. So, yeah.
The issues where, as we sort of set up an office or CC, where you say somebody's installing a virtual office out there, and you'll bit by bit, see file by file, placing a version, but maybe they're showing a laptop, they go home, they open up the VPN, they go to his office at all, because it's only half deployed. Whereas saying, say another system would download the package and then only would have the package installed.
Where is it? Yeah. That will not happen because basically you have always that step first. Also, if you do the rollback, it will be first download. So what you said is that can only happen. The activation only hits in after it's completely downloaded. So at that stage, what you have is half the stuff in the hidden folder of the client, but it will not touch the other stuff, which is still working. So I think that's one of the big advantages as well. Well, that's something. The feedback I got, what people like is that they want that you ensure basically also in the deployments that the application of what you do with an update is always available. Yeah. Excuse me, sorry. It's not. Right. Yeah.
If an item's loaded like a launch agent or a launch daemon, obviously if you remove the file, the thing's still going to be running. It's the kind of contingency for that to be.
Sorry, excuse me. Can you?
So if it's a launch daemon or a launch agent or something that's running, and you remove the file, then it's still going to be running that process. Is there a particular?
What do you think? If you deploy it via file wave or
Yeah, if you say remove the newer version because there was a problem, it's still be running the agent or the process, or is there a way that it terminates the processes?
basically when is the launch agent deployed via us as well, which basically you may take the whole file, the biggest file is gone. So as far as I'm concerned, it will not work. Well, we'll have to look at that in particular. To be very honest, I don't know. I haven't looked at that. So we'll get back to you. No, it's good. That's why I'm here. I'm actually here to make my notes and go back and I ask myself or one else that I see.
Does or will system integrity protection impact on anything that's going on? So it's dealing with everything on file.
Yeah, it did. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, we basically had to move our files. And we have it's called, we do a lot of queries as well. So that's really very, very rudimentary. So basically, we have a query in there which checks every single file set you actually generated, if it's SIP, if it does anything, because you know all the files, and it basically checks, oh, are those 5 folders, is anything deployed in any of those 5 folders that shows up? Because yeah, of course, you can.
Yeah, so you couldn't, for example, roll that from 10.05 to 10.04.
No,
because.
And that's general.
Oh, yeah,
no.
I just wondered if you had any special source that allowed. Cool.
Yeah. Thank you. I brought the presents.
Thank you for working on your birthday.
Thanks to my girlfriend that she's put it up. Oh, sorry. If you want, I have. I brought some USB sticks with trial versions. If you want. Stand up there. Stand up there.
Should we do the really embarrassing sing of birthdays?
Yeah!
Alright, I'll do this.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Crystal. Happy birthday to you. Thank you.
So in England, what generally happens is if it's your birthday, you buy beers.
Okay, so we've got Darren.
Like minutes.
Another couple of minutes, just stand up. I know it's really warm in here, and everybody likes to eat them. Couple of minutes, and then Darren will shout. We'll finish up.
Remarketing materials. And the following. I don't want to HTA use.
Hello, finally.
Yeah.
Sorry to grab you over.
Oh.
Yeah. Which I do speak with. Oh, there's aircon in there for it. It's just horrible. Absolutely horrible.
I know I was very nervous. We're getting better with those things, but it'll take a while, I think.
Yeah, I'm the same. So, I'll next. Be fine. We're all friendly library.
Yeah.
Let's come in and play.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so
Yeah, this is a question.
This round.
And then 4 minutes and then we'll shout.
Yeah, no worries.
Now I've got power on the stream to carry on.
Did you cut out?
No, it's running out of power.
Oh, okay.
We actually have, I think the stream to stop in 20 minutes. So.
That's all right. I'll make it quick.
Yeah, I tried that as well. And then I was on that update thing, and I was like,
You did, mate. I was getting that one for now. Is that sorry, mate? Yeah, I'll be happy to. Why is it always going on screen?
So
I said it was an hour and a half long. I don't know if it's going to cut.
Is it? I mean, talk to you guys later. I'm sure. So round about it. If you cut it off right before it shows my dodgy scripting skills, that's yours. And this was incorrigible. The lightning.
What's your name?
No, I was just looking at you, and it's got a lightning projecting.
I haven't seen that before.
I mean, I wasn't
The USB 3 one.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a new one.
It's a bit, yeah, I wouldn't go to use that yet. MacBook. Not. I need to use it one things.
I think it's fine. Yeah, you have to really tiny thing and hold back.
I think if you're sort of this on the place, like Yannis, I can see it working really well using VMs, hosting and other stuff where going around, like probably like all three of us, it just doesn't work. So,
The mic's on you.
which might
It's 8 gigs.
Cool.
You don't use it for anything else.
I have been thinking.
It's not the latest version.
Sweet.
But there's another one coming up, 7.75, which has all the classroom stuff.
Oh, sweet, yeah. I'm still playing with that.
It's
I keep cutting you off.
I know.
I'm sorry, you did.
The mic's mute.
We'll do it. Just say bot.
Yes. It's a little mute switch. Just slide it along. Yeah. Slide it along. Hello.
Sorry guys, I'll try and make it quick. Bring hands forward. Bring hands forward.
I tried that as well.
Just go there. Thanks for coming and thanks for letting me talk about rubbish. So here to introduce a new little app thing I've written. I'm Alberta. A bit of introduction. So I'm Darren Wallace, consultant at AMSIS. We're an MSP. Been there now for 11 years, I think, next week. Been there a while. You can normally find me on Twitter and Slack with that handle, so feel free to send me gifts or nice messages are also accepted. Tend to hang out in the London and UK channels. Represent. So, enough about rubbish. Yes, introduction on what I'm talking about. So, in the last few years, more and more of the sort of cloud-hosted solutions, particularly mail, contacts, calendar solutions, become more popular, easier to use, and cheaper, more importantly, very much cheaper. As a result, we tend to find we've moved most of our small, medium business customers from their local servers, specifically mail servers, into cloud-based solutions, and most of them use Office 365 for that. As you can imagine, most of those sort of clients are running Apple servers, and we tend to use Carrier Connect for that. Anyone else heard or used Carrier Connect? Cool. We tend to find it's a bit easier, better, arguably, than the built-in Apple Mail server, so that was our go-to option. But yeah, now it makes it a bit easier to run it in a cloud-based solution, so they didn't sort of migrate their users over. So Carrier does a good job of spoofing a Exchange server for client devices. Unfortunately, not quite good enough for the pretty cool migration tools you have with Office 365, which is a bit of a problem. So instead, what we have to use in that instance is the IMAP migration tool. Fundamentally, in IMAP, that will only do emails, not contacts or calendars, which is irritating. So how do we do those? So the process for that has been to manually export a user account, that's calendar user account, contact user account, not device user account or even device, which would be halfway there. Manually export that data and then re-import it into the new accounts. Yeah, it's a bit rubbish, as you can imagine. Yeah, so it's very time consuming. But it's not actually that difficult to do. It's not technically taxing, really. That is until you go to import your calendars and it finds an event it doesn't like. And then the clicker doesn't work. Okay? So you see a message like that. That appears when it hits an event it doesn't really like and fails to import. And that happens for every single event that it doesn't like. You don't get one for all of them, you just get one for every single event. And this can be from a handful of times per import, potentially up to hundreds of times. A little bit annoying, really. And on top of that, the three options you're given, the revert to server, try again, and ignore, out of the three of them, only the first one deals with the issue problem. In which case, it actually removes the event completely and doesn't try to play it. Try again, in my experience, tends to just bring the message up again 5 seconds later. And ignore tends to do a very weird scenario where it will have a local calendar for a while, maybe decide that that event doesn't exist in the server and serve the right version, and then sort of randomly strip it out for you, which is handy. So, unfortunately, we can't really have an engineer sitting at every workstation, revert to server, wait 5 minutes, revert to server. Neither can we ask the customer or their users to do it. At the end of the day, they're paying us to do this stuff for them, not for us to give them tasks. Yes, I was looking for a desperate excuse to use that in this presentation. And to be honest, one of the issues you do have is you can sometimes take the focus of the device, the OS, away from whatever the users work on into calendar, which makes it quite disruptive, really. So, hi Alberta, how does that help with that? So let's take a sort of a view on that. There we go. So with a summary, it's a Python script that ranks inside an AppleScript application. AppleScript. It removes part are those events that actually cause that the import doesn't like and causes those problems. The result is, at the end, it outputs a second ICS file, Tango file, that can then be imported into another solution, say Office 365. So step one, when you launch it, you ask to pick an ICS file. Ignore the screenshot, it defaults to your desktop folder, because that folder is a nice folder. I was too lazy to clean up my desktop for a screenshot, so that's in my downloads folder. The second step, once you pick your ICS file, you can start working on it. Now this is something I'll talk about a bit later, but essentially there's no progress screen or Steam Word at the moment to sort of give you some feedback. I'll come back to that. When you finish, you get a nice little work completed message. So you go a full path to the file that's working. You get the name of the output file, which, funny enough, just is the same with -output file. And it's located in the same directory the original was. So the idea is you have one, you export it to the desktop user, you run this app, you select them all, work through each time, and spit them out of the desktop ready to be imported. Right, that's kind of the usage overview, so let's do a bit more deep dive on that. So take a step back and why. So, nice, okay. A bit of experimentation, a bit of trial and error. There was 4 events of 4 chance to cause these messages, these variations of that part message. There's events with attachments. Turns out you can add attachments to events. Didn't know that. Turns out it doesn't like it. Events that reoccur, recurrent events. Every Wednesday, go to the gym. Go to the gym. Events with invitees, so you've arranged something and you're inviting other people. And the last one is events with users and attendees, so people invited user events. Now, in my experience, that was kind of the 4 key things that were causing 95% of those messages to come. And rather than sitting there and picking out a reverse serve button, the idea was to try and do something about that in a nice automated way. So, the what, I guess. So let's find out what an ICS file looks like to see what we can do about it. You can actually force an ICS file open in a text editor application. Personal preference is text wrangler. Do not use Word, please. Don't use text editor either unless you've done a lot of tweaks, shall we say, a bit bluntly, to enable the settings and features. Otherwise, it tends to mangle the file and then you might as well start again. So force it open in a plain text editor application of some kind, and you can nice little text file. Digging into it a bit further, each event is actually wrapped in a beginning of the event and an end of the event, and all the information in the middle there. Don't ask me what it all means, I'm afraid, I don't know exactly what it means. But that's kind of the 2 key bits, and that's what wraps each event. So after a bit more digging and testing, we found the 4 tags that we were looking for that were causing these 4 issues. Recurring events is called an R rule, recurring rule. So for example, that was set for 1 every week, and another information that I'm not sure. Basically, it runs once every week on a weekly basis. That'll be on day 5, so that'll be Friday. So every Friday recurring. Next 2, so we've got events where you invite other users. So you're the owner of the event, so to speak, and you invite others. So actually, you have listed here, it's other people that are attending. So this is the one where I've been invited to, just to confuse the screenshots of it. The bottom one is where you have been invited to an event in your calendar, but you've been invited to it. So it actually has the organiser's details in that example. The last one, which is probably the most fun one, attachments. So these are basically for encoded. It's all those lines plus another 133,000 lines. And these are lines, they're not one long line with characters, sort of really for nice format. It literally is lines, which is fun. And so that was actually the app itself I added as an example for a screenshot. So that's kind of the sort of size you're looking at for a smallish app. So, how? Now we've got that information, we know what we need to do for each ICS file, each calendar. So, export user's calendar, get it on desktop. We then have to find any of those 4 tags and remove those completely out, including any information below them, and then import Canada. Nice and simple. But doing this manually, it's very long, it's time consuming. Humans like those kind of tasks, long time consuming tasks, and therefore it's highly prone to errors. And some of the data itself is actually multiple lines we saw with the attach tag. And because of that, we can't some replace in another text editor. So all those three kind of criteria or issues means it's ideal for scripting. So, time to script it. After doing a bit of research, I found an analysis list blog, a particular post by Dr. Brown. I'm not sure who that person is, but they were very helpful. They had a specific scenario where they were downloading ICS files from their airline provider that had information that they didn't like about formatting in areas in. So he or she wrote a Python script and used a third-party library to modify the ICS file before he then imported it. Yeah, and so using that and the actual parser, generator, framework, library, whatever the correct terminology is, I do apologize, that one I'm still learning Python, that lets you manipulate those Canada files correctly using those v-event tags and kind of working those tags a lot better. Nice. Makes my life a lot easier. Standing on the shoulders of giants comes to mind. But right, so I combined my rudimentary knowledge of Python, the script and the framework, and produced a Canada assistant.py Python script. That's it. I'd like to apologize in advance. I'm still learning Python, so apologize for any mistakes. It does work, that's the main thing. So as you can see, so it takes the details, it finds the 4 components in each v-event, if it finds them, it strips them out to be blank, and then I've called out to set commands to then strip out the remaining sort of chunks on that. Right, that's kind of nuts and bolts of that. I've tested it in Anger twice now, so it does work. It seems to get down about 95% of those pop-ups, which even if you'd have to do it another 100 times, imagine that could be 1,000 times, so it's much better. But, as with anything, it's not finished. Things never finish. Yes, it's no excuse to use another random GIF. From what I can see, these are my thoughts on what to do next, what needs to be done next with it. So, I don't know if you saw that, I'm going to flick back a few slides. But those set processes are actually outside of the Python loop. I need to do a lot more testing and work on this. I thought if I can move those inside the loop, I might then be able to work on multiple ICS files at once. So rather than going in, picking one ICS file, wait for it to finish, next one, you go, right, here's 15, I'm going to lunch, come back, and done. Back to it. Adding a progress bar to the GUI, that's what I mentioned a bit earlier. I had a couple hundred meg ICS file, I believe it was. Used a bit of company for years and years and years. That blank screen with the icon still in the dock and no feedback sat there about 5 minutes. Wasn't entirely sure if it crashed or not. It hadn't, but I had no visual feedback on what's going on. And that's something I need to figure out how to do better. Point 3, I'm pretty sure it's possible, but I've done no research into it so far. But stripping out those set calls and replacing them with something more Python to make it sort of a pure Python script. And then the last one, which is again true everything forever, is more real-world testing to make sure that anything's hitting that it's not liking isn't accommodated, or if anyone picks up any other issues, they can be added in. So that was a very brief run through. There should be a blog post going up, so I need to check. Should have been up about 15 minutes ago. That has a bit of a summary of this talk, this discussion, and a link to the GitHub repo where you can find it. It's completely open GitHub repo, so in regards to obtaining it, not making submissions to it directly. So feel free to poke around, try it, use it for the basis of your own versions of whatever else you need to do to calendars, or just to mock generally. On that one. Yeah, so any questions on that one, that run through?
How long did it take to convert?
About 5 minutes. To be honest, I was sitting there scratching my head, so I didn't quite time it. I was too worried about crash my machine, to be honest. Just another point I didn't miss out on there. The reason I used AppleScript was to go back to Ben's MATLAB talk about validating input. Instead of building my own systems validating that the user was giving me a decent ICS file, I just had AppleScript make the user give me an ICS file. And it saves a lot of work, essentially. Why rewrite things that have already written for you? So yeah, before I grab it on more, any other questions?
I mean, you kind of just partly answered. I was just wondering why you came to the decision to use AppleScript, Python, and then Python shell out to Bash. Is there? Yeah.
No, sure. Any question? Why do I use AppleScript, Python, and Bash? Essentially, I feel like I know Bash pretty well. I needed a reason to use Python, and there was nothing Bashy, I think, that would have worked. Or used the word there. And AppleScript, I've not done any real looking into Swift or Objective-C. It's on my never-ending list of things to look into and know. But I know AppleScript well enough to kind of get along with it. And same as second ones, I was looking for an immediate result, sort of proof of concept, and then the next steps would be to develop it to be pretty, essentially. And both from a code point of view and from a good. Is that satisfactory? Damn. I have never looked well, and I think unfortunately Python's taken over. I believe in that kind of thing.
What the hell's wrong with Perl? It's the sentence. What's wrong with Perl?
Was that saying or
question?
Anything else? Okay. Uptime. So Ben's possible.
Well, so thank you guys that spoke. I just looked behind us. I thought, oh, we can go finish off with hummus because it wasn't too bad. And a couple more glasses of wine, and we had clear tables.
9 o'clock they have to do it.
That's cool. We can
Say, but they have to. Just say.
Unless you're hiding.
In the morning, there will be no. Cool. So probably as well then. Maybe go outside for a moment, cool down. They have hummus. Sorry? They got hummus. They may not have hummus, I'm afraid. But it was cold. So if you want to like expect hummus for the group, then yeah, cheers. We've got an event 5th of September at ITV Southbank, and Graham, who you guys have seen before, and I met before you and the other guy who set us up, he's actually flying off to the States to join Airbnb. So he's going to be here till later in the year. So he wants to sneak another cheeky event in somewhere at Airbnb. So we'll probably just do another one. Preferably not on a date where it's petered down and everybody's having to run out to vote and the trains are knackered. You know, long list of things as played yesterday. So yeah, so September 5th, maybe one before that as well. And obviously these events, anybody wants to speak, let us know. Was there anything that anybody wants to say in front of the group? To like ask a question or something like that? Nobody wants to volunteer this. Apart from that. Anybody? Do you have a question, Dan?
I just wondered what that's.
Yeah, I noticed that. Why can you spam Darren but not David?
You can spam David.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, good.
We'll make it happen.
Not away with that.
Everybody happy? Cool. I'm actually broadcasting this as well, so I should not get idiots standing in front of you guys.
I'm telling you when you're watching.
Yeah, there's my mum. Thank you guys.